something, a minimum viable product of something, to speak to your customers about it or have that meaningful exchange of information. Good evening, everyone. How's everybody doing today? Thank you for making the choice to be here today than somewhere else. So how many of you were at the presentation last week with Nathan Monk? Great, most of you are here. So a lot of what Nathan covered last week was about, starting a business is not easy. It's like climbing Mount Everest, I think is his analogy was. And, you can use this ecosystem that you're in, the Toronto ecosystem, Ontario's ecosystem of startups, to really help de-risk a lot of the decisions that you're making so that your venture is successful. We are lucky to be in this kind of an ecosystem. And this lecture today is in that continuum of how to help you de-risk further. The more information you gather before you put any more time and energy into your venture, the more successful you will be. So that's what we're going to cover today. And I have 3 of my analysts who will also be joining me later on. So let's just get started on the topics. So what is this market customer discovery? What does it really mean? Number one, I think most of you probably are here because you have some kind of an idea in mind. Maybe you have a solution, you faced a problem in your workplace, or you're thinking about, how could I solve that? I think I can do a better job than what I'm doing currently in the role that I am in. And you think, yeah, I can build a business, I can bring some like-minded people together and build a business, figure out, channels where I can sell it to a customer directly or a business, and yeah, I should be able to make some money. What is that one thing, do you think, that's really important that you should really know before you start anything? Let's hear a few. What is that one thing that you should really know? Any responses? Customer?
Do you have a customer who is interested?
Yes. Or another way to say it is, what is that real pain point that you're solving? It's great to have a solution, but if you don't really understand the problem that you're trying to solve, it's very unlikely that you will be able to get that, monetary benefit from selling or have difficulty even selling. So how do you de-risk all of that? The journey of an entrepreneur is rocky. You're learning, pivoting, changing, and so on. You can use this information that you have, market intelligence, customer feedback effectively to de-risk all of that. You're making a lot of assumptions in the beginning about, yeah, they want this feature, yes, maybe this pricing might work, or this channel might be the right channel. All of that are assumptions. You have to put in effort to de-risk that assumption to make it into actual facts by collecting all the relevant information. And what kind of information are we talking about? And these are straightforward. There's a whole bunch of information that's already ready-made available to you that you could leverage in the public domain, or information that is published, but also primary research you're going to collect from the customer base, which is invaluable to make those decisions. So what could a customer, and then the type of information could be qualitative or quantitative. So what kind of pathway could you potentially follow to de-risk that? What are the step-by-step kind of approach could you take? And the first thing you're going to ask yourself is, I'm hoping that everybody's here, you want to obviously make some money out of that. There's a social purpose perhaps in your business, but at the end of the day, you want to be sustainable. You want to be able to make that money. So is it worth solving? Is this a market big enough that you could have a pie of that market? So you're going to ask that question. So you're going to try and figure out, what is the market size that I'm going after? Is this a very niche space where there's only $1 million that's there to split, or is it a big enough market? Is it a global market I'm going after? And is it an existing space? Maybe there are other people doing this already, I'm just not aware of it. You really need to spend some time understanding that. And then other people you might bump into. Maybe you feel that you have a unique value proposition, but there might be other solutions people are using at that time to convert them from that to yours. What is the value add you're going to bring? So all of that kind of information, potentially you could gather from secondary research. There are published sources, depending on the space that you're in. There might be published sources of information you could use to answer a lot of those questions. Then you really want to take the next step where, in the video you heard the entrepreneur talk about MVP. What is a minimum viable product? You've done the market sizing, you understand the space that you're getting into, you've made a decision, okay, I'm going to move forward. It's worth solving, and I think I have something unique to offer. You need something, a minimum viable product of something, to speak to your customers about it or have that meaningful exchange of information. So thinking about it in a broad way, a bigger product vision of what do you want the company to be or the product to be, and then bringing it down to what is that minimum viable product? What is that one thing I could say that would give them that aha moment, like, yeah, if you can do that, wow, I'll buy it today. What is that one thing you could say that would bring that differentiation that you're solving their problem? You have to work at that, and obviously the workshops that we talked about help you to get to that place, to understand what an MVP will be for you. And then you have to really think about, who is my customer really? That's the third yellow box that I have here in the slide. Is it the teenager that I'm selling to, but he has to really convince his mom to pay for it? Or is there a business person who is, really dealing with that difficult situation where he is convinced he needs it, but really his manager has to sign off? So you have to understand who you're potentially selling to, and then the personas you develop, who that person is, really understanding who that person would be is important, so that you can then connect with the right kind of individual, whether you are getting referrals or you're directly reaching out to them, so that you can test out what you're trying to get to the marketplace. So that can only happen through that primary research, that interaction. One of the videos said, speak to as many customers as you can to answer certain questions. There's only so much you can do with existing published information. Things like price points. You're not going to get that from that. You have to test it out. Things like certain new, specific features that they're looking for. You're not going to get that from just reading something else. You're going to have to feed off from the interactions you have with the customer base. So that's kind of a broad stroke of what the steps of the customer discovery looks like. And at the end of the day, I think next week is Business Model Canvas, if I'm not mistaken. Or the type of entrepreneurs, I guess that's coming up. BMC is coming up later. You will take all of those information that you've gathered and fill out a business model canvas. But this process doesn't end. This is not unique to just startups. This is kind of the process even larger corporations go through when they're introducing a new product. Maybe not in the lean way that maybe startups do, but they still have to go through this validation of, is this new thing that we have? I always think of Costco and the new products that you see everywhere, in the aisles. That's what they're doing. They're testing out their product. I don't think they're collecting information very effectively, however. So as startups, we should probably, they're just giving out the samples. I don't ever get asked any question about would they like your product or not, or what would you do differently, nothing like that. So the startups can, do that process, if not in the retail space, but your own product customer discovery in a lot more effective way and gain that information.